well, let's try and frame what's dangerous and what's not. So I'll cover the viruses being real in this section. Okay, so the if you can accept the fact that these are all the pandemic prediction programs that we know of are all funded by Department of Defense, Defense Threat Reduction Agency, and their equivalents in multiple other countries, including greatest ally in the Middle East. Okay, and all have sort of covert biowarfare programs. Now, in this context, what people are struggling to grasp is that there is now a level of sophistication in the molecular and biology and the genomics that there are multiple levels by which a pathogen can elicit effects against the target that you could deploy it against. Now, what I will bring straight to the fore is that trying to suddenly you have YouTube experts on the existence of viruses. What I would do is how many people would object to the notion that there could be or that spongiform encephalopathies are a fictitious. Do you understand what a spongiform encephalopathy is? So things like
never heard of that.
So that's
mad cow. I've heard of mad cow disease. So nothing like eating diseased cows or something. Cows that eat other cows and then they pass it on or something along those lines.
Yes, and it was first sort of identified in Papua New Guinea as a disease called Kuru, and you see it in North America now as chronic wasting disease in deer, and there was this phenomenon of new variants, Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, and the molecular biology, without hopefully getting too technical. I mean, I'll take questions on it if people really want to deep dive into what it means, but it's possible now. So spongiform encephalopathy is caused not by a virus, but something orders of magnitude even smaller, which is it's what's called a prion. And a prion is a proteinaceous infectious particle that once you ingest, there's no safe exposure to. Okay, so it doesn't. You can go with in test animals. This is so. It's, and like I say, it's an axiom in neuroscience that there's no no safe exposure, no safe limit, and that's why they went to such extreme lengths in the UK to remove rendered. Not rendered, like the spinal cords and brains being put back into the feed supply that was being fed back to cows, which was making them develop this disease. And in this particular instance, as we've come to understand the phenomenon, what we've found is that you can viral proteins themselves can have prion-inducing surfaces. So it kind of, the way to imagine it is like the virus, so that it's got a 3D shape in space, and there are various surfaces on there that when they come into contact with appropriate protein, that they're capable of misfolding that protein to cause what is a prion cascade, so that you develop prion disorders. Now, within this context, what you have to think is that the current state of the art in neuroscience is that we look at many of the neurodegenerative disorders, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, Lewy body dementia. The list is very long. We think that perhaps the underlying cause is a prion cascade caused by particular viruses. For example, herpes is one that's very suspect in the field. And what we can see with SARS-CoV-2 is that it has a number of regions that we can identify that fit the bill of being able to cause protein misfolding. And more importantly, and this would fit with the premise that you're dealing with a next generation biological warfare agent. On the spike protein of SARS-CoV-2 is what's called the receptor binding motif. So the part of the protein that grabs onto your cells, that's capable of causing protein misfolding and then causing a prion cascade as well. Okay, but it's not so strong. It's you can see big signals in other parts of the genome, but because it binds to this receptor called ACE2, which is very widely distributed in the through your body, through the vasculature, the blood vessels, and as well as parts of the brain. And it's this which potentially could be the sting in the tail with respect to the weaponization, not the initial infection. Okay, does that make sense?
I'm trying to follow. Anyway,
okay.
Yeah.
So most people would presume that a biowarfare agent, it's released and you expect to see people clawing at their throat and keeling over and dying. Okay, within biowarfare research, prions, these elements that cause mad cow, have been like a holy grail. But the problem is it's difficult to spread them. You've got to get people to eat them. Whereas now the proteomics is so sophisticated, they can make proteins form this protein misfolding, and so you could catch the virus and then a couple of years later then express the neurodegeneration. And this is and it's this that concerns me, not the immediate effects and what can you do about this? Well, it always comes down to how much infectious dose that you take right now. It's like anything, right? The dose makes the poison. And although I did with the caveat that there's no safe dose of prions, your body has something approximating an ability to deal with them, like an immune system. But this is where we're at. And so when people, I understand your argument, which is it doesn't look that dangerous right now. But what if they made it so that it was dangerously unpredictable in its release, but there was a slow burn in the fuse so that 2-3 years later, the neurodegeneration kicks in. It's not just neurodegeneration, in fact. It could be you get Lewy body disease and cardiac tissue. It's involved in cancers, yada, yada. The list goes on.